All right, it's Friday edition of the Morning Pitt here on youtube.com/Panther-Lair.com. We made it to the end of the week. I'm glad I did. I'm glad you did. I'm sure you are as well. We're one day further away from the loss at Notre Dame on Wednesday night, and we're one day closer to the regular season finale at Miami tomorrow. Kind of an in-between stage right here, but with plenty to talk about on the Morning Pitt. Remember what we always ask you to do: like this video and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Like button is down there. Subscribe button is down there. Click both of those things. It would make me real happy if you did. And you can turn on notifications so you get an alert every time we post new videos, we go live, anything that we do. And we're going to be doing a lot here at youtube.com/Panther-Lair.com as Pitt heads into the postseason. We're going to be doing post-game shows after every game from here on out. We don't even know the schedule. We don't even know when Pitt's going to be playing after tomorrow, but we will be doing a live post-game show whenever they play. We did one on Wednesday night after the Notre Dame game. That was... Well, I can't say that it was fun, and probably won't even say that it was cathartic, but at least we all got together and talked about the game, what we saw, for an hour or so. Went by pretty fast, actually. It was a good conversation. We're going to do it again after the game tomorrow. I don't know what time that's going to start, 8:15, 8:30, maybe somewhere around there. I can't tell you an exact start time, but if you click the subscribe button and turn on notifications, you'll get an alert sent to your phone when we go live, so you don't have to worry about missing anything. You can be there right away. And same thing in the ACC tournament and beyond. Remember, for all of our postseason post-game shows, if you would like to be a sponsor of the postseason post-game shows and reach Pitt fans all over the world, send me a DM. Reach out to me on Twitter at Panther-Lair, and you can we can talk about some advertising opportunities and ways for you to connect your business with Pitt fans. Could have kind of a unique opportunity. Our live post-game shows always draw a lot of people, and this would be an opportunity for you to reach out to those Pitt fans. So it's Friday. We're now 2 days removed from Pitt's loss at Notre Dame on Wednesday night, and nothing has really changed in my perspective about that game. It's still about the free throws, man, and there were a lot of things Pitt did wrong in that game. The defense in the first half was a major issue. 2 technical fouls, that was an issue. Some of the just mental lapses, a few of the really poorly timed free throw or turnovers, which when you're down by a dozen or 20 points or so, every turnover is going to feel pretty poorly timed. But really, what's a well-timed turnover anyway? But there were a lot of mistakes that Pitt made, but they still could have won the game if they had even been just close to their season average on free throw shooting in this game. But they weren't, and so they didn't, and they lost. And it's a disappointing loss, and it's a missed opportunity, but everything is still out there for them tomorrow. And that's one of the things I've really been thinking about. I was even thinking of a little bit on Wednesday and Tuesday before the game against Notre Dame, and certainly over the last 2 days since that game. It was always going to be about the Miami game. The Miami game was always going to be the game that decided what happened here. It was always going to be the game that decided who won the ACC regular season championship. It was always going to be the game that decided who was the number 1 seed in the ACC tournament. It was always going to be the deciding game. Regardless of what happened in South Bend, it was always going to be about this Miami game. And so it is. It really comes down to the Miami game. Who wins tomorrow will win the ACC championship. Simple as that. I mean, it really is. And there'll be shared titles. Assuming Virginia takes care of Louisville, the Cavaliers will finish with 5 losses. And then whoever wins the Pitt-Miami game tomorrow will finish with 5 losses. But Pitt and Miami both have a tiebreaker advantage over Virginia. So tomorrow is for the ACC regular season championship. Shared or otherwise, is for the ACC regular season championship and the number 1 seed in the ACC tournament. There's a whole lot on the line. Now, there were things on the line on Wednesday night. Clinching a share of the ACC title was on the line when Pitt went to South Bend. Clinching a top 4 seed and a double bye in the ACC tournament was on the line when Pitt went to South Bend. They missed both of those opportunities. And that's ultimately, probably because of how bad the free throw shooting was, that's ultimately my biggest takeaway, is that they missed an opportunity, a couple of big opportunities in a game they should have won. But they didn't. They fell short. Now they get a makeup. They get a chance to accomplish those same things again. And the outright regular season championship is likely off the table unless Virginia loses and Pitt wins. But all those other things, a share of the title, number one seed, double bye, all those things are still very much on the table and out there for Pitt if they can beat Miami. Now, that's no small task. And I'll be honest, I'm probably going to pick Miami to win because the game is on the road. Miami's a very good team. Pitt, let's be honest, has been in a slump 3 out of the last 4 games. Virginia Tech, Georgia Tech, and now this game. Kind of the first half against Syracuse a little bit to some extent. They've been in a bit of a slump. Now, Miami is not coming in with a whole lot of momentum either. They've been off this week, but right before they were off, they blew a 20-something point lead against Florida State at home last Saturday, a game where they were up like 50-25 at halftime or right before halftime. And they ended up blowing that lead and losing on a buzzer beater 3 by Florida State. So Miami is not exactly roaring into the regular season finale with a lot of momentum and a lot of good play. They're not coming off a win either. One of these teams is going to go into the ACC tournament having lost back-to-back games, including a bad loss. One of these teams is going to go into the ACC tournament having bounced back from its bad loss with a very good win and the number one seed in the conference tourney. I'm leaning toward Miami in this game because it's on the road, because Pitt has been struggling a little bit, and because when the game was in Pittsburgh, it still came down to the final possession and it ended up being a 3-point game. I think if Pitt couldn't do better than that against Miami back then at home, it's going to be really tough to do it now at this point in the season at Miami. But I'm not ruling the Panthers out. Not in the least. If it comes down to it, I have to pick one side or the other. I'm guessing Miami will probably win, but I'm not ruling Pitt out from a victory here. They have shown us through 30 games and through the 29 games prior to Wednesday night, or maybe the 25 games after the first 4 and prior to Wednesday night, they've shown us certainly over a more than 24 games, let's say it that way, they've shown us who they are. And I think we would do well to take note of that. And I think we have taken note of that. And I think a lot of the optimism and confidence in this team throughout the season has been built on the success that they have enjoyed and the way they have played and the games they've won and the way they've won those games. None of that has changed. None of that changes just because they had a bad game at Notre Dame on Wednesday night. They continue to be a top team in the ACC. And, there's no sample size issues here. They're 14-5 in the conference. And to me, this is one of the biggest things. And I said this on Twitter yesterday, and, I think a lot of people agreed. Some took issue with it. I said it on the post-game show on Wednesday night. Some agreed, some didn't. No matter what happens, right? Win out, lose out, something in between. This season has been an unmitigated success for Pitt. It can still end up as a disappointment, but it'll be a disappointing success. And there's nothing that can happen that would sway me off of that. Pitt achieved a successful season quite a while ago. They did it when they clinched a winning record overall. They did it when they clinched a winning record in the ACC. They did it when they set a new record for wins in the ACC. They did it when they got to 20 wins for the first time in 7 years. They did it when they played themselves into first place in the conference heading into the final week of the season. They did it when they put themselves in position to play for the conference championship on the regular season finale. They did it where when they got themselves into the conversation about the NCAA tournament. All of these characteristics would be counted as a success if you consider them. And, I think people have listened to me blabber on these podcasts long enough that you know what I think about expectations and how expectations change over the course of a season. That what you thought of a team in October or November isn't all that relevant in January, February, and March because the team has grown and evolved or devolved over the course of 30 games. And once you've got 30 games of evidence, you can say, well, we know who they are. And we know what they should be expected to do. And it's a testament to the success that this team has had that our expectations did raise to a certain level where if Pitt were to miss the NCAA tournament, it would be a considerable disappointment. And in some ways, the level of that disappointment is directly tied to how the expectations change, which is directly tied to the success that this season has already been. The NCAA tournament, missing the NCAA tournament, if that's what comes to pass, would not be as great a disappointment if they had not been as successful as they already have. The answer kind of proves the point. If If they miss the tournament, you'll be really disappointed about it. And the reason you'll be really disappointed is because this season has been successful. Putting this season in the context of the years that preceded it locks it in as a success, again, regardless of what comes after. And it can be, I think it can be both things. I think you can be disappointed if they end up missing the NCAA tournament, and you can be, you can consider the season a success. Both things, even if they miss the NCAA tournament. Now, I'm of the mind that they're not going to. I'm of the mind that even if they don't win at Miami, they'll win a couple in the ACC tournament. I think they are still the very good team we thought they were. I think Miami might be less of a matchup challenge than Notre Dame was. Notre Dame having big guys that could draw Federico out to the perimeter and out to the three-point line and then get him into bad matchups. I don't think Miami does that. Federico won the matchup of centers in the last game. He had 4 blocks against Miami the first time Pitt played them. And this team still has Jamarius Burton, Blake Hinson, Nelly Cummings, Nike Sabandi, Greg Elliott. Even if he was on a milk carton in South Bend, he's still on this team. These are still good players who can score a lot of points and make big plays in big situations. What happened on Wednesday night was disappointing. It does not change who they have been for the past 3 months, right? And I think the team that they've been for the past 3 months, the team they've been for the past 30 games, can go into Miami and win, can go to Greensboro and win multiple games, and play themselves into the NCAA tournament. Really confident about that, about them having that ability. But they obviously have to refocus on some things that cost them in South Bend. Defense, free throw shooting. Keep their what's the word I'm looking at? Staying calm, keeping their minds focused, not losing focus, not getting undisciplined, and staying focused in the game. I mean, is really probably the best way to put it when you look at the technical fouls and some of the mistakes that they made in the game at Notre Dame on Wednesday night. So, they're still that team. And I think they can go down to Miami tomorrow and they can show it. We talked about kind of what's on the line here. If Pitt is able to win, they will be the number 1 seed. They will have at least a share of the ACC regular season championship. Virginia hosts Louisville. Cavaliers unlikely to lose that game. If Virginia holds on and wins that one, they will clinch a share of the ACC title, but they will, of course, lose tiebreakers to Pitt or Miami. So Virginia is not going to be the number 1 seed. That much is locked in. Duke at North Carolina tomorrow night. That game's going to get all the national attention. If Duke were to lose, that would guarantee Pitt a spot in the top 4. I forget. I think that game might be at 8 o'clock. I have to double check, but I think it might be after the Pitt-Miami game. So even if Pitt loses the Miami game, they're not locked into the number 5 seed until Duke wins. If Duke beats North Carolina and Pitt loses at Miami, then that would lock them in. They would make them a 5 seed. They would play on Wednesday, as opposed to getting into the top 4 seeds in a double bye and not playing until Thursday. They put themselves in this position by losing to Notre Dame. That is one of the things they lost. Was the opportunity to clinch a top 4 seed if they had beat the Irish, which they failed to do, and now they're kind of playing on the final day for not just the number 1 seed, but for a top 4 seed overall. Those are really the games that you're watching. Are Pitt-Miami, obviously, Virginia-Louisville, and Duke. Actually, Clemson, too. Is Clemson, I forget what Clemson's record is. Let me look that up real quick, because the Clemson game might... Yeah, so Clemson's down to 6 losses as well. If either one of those teams, actually, Duke or Clemson, were to lose tomorrow, Duke's at Carolina, Clemson hosts Notre Dame. I think both of those games are at 8 o'clock. No, I'm sorry. Duke at Carolina is a 6:30 game, so that'll end shortly after the Pitt-Miami game. But if Duke or Clemson, since they both have tiebreakers over Pitt, if they were to lose, then that would lock Pitt into a top 4 seed, regardless of the outcome of Pitt's game at Miami. Pitt's best chance, Pitt's most direct chance, Pitt's control its own destiny situation is win the friggin' game, clinch the number 1 overall seed, and at least a share of the ACC title. And I think to do that, they have to do it the way they've done it all year. Jamarius Burton has to lead the way. Blake Hinson has to make threes. You know what I mean? He's got to be a weapon. Nelly Cummings has to be able to facilitate and set up his teammates and make his plays. Federico has to be in a matchup where he can protect the rim and play strong defense in the post and not get dragged out to the perimeter as often as he was at Notre Dame. Greg Elliott needs to get into a rhythm with his shooting. And then you get what you can. Oh, obviously, Nike Sabandi has to be a big part of it as well, coming off the bench. And then you get what you can of, the Diaz-Graham twins and potentially Nate Santos, who really didn't see the court at all at Notre Dame. The formula is the same. At this point in the season, I don't think there's any, crazy keys to the game. It's pretty much do what you've done to get to this point and see what happens. See what you're able to do with it. I do think there's something else on the line in tomorrow's game. And this is not official. And it's certainly not something that, it's they're not going to declare this at the end of the game. But I think it's my opinion that the ACC Player of the Year is going to come down to Jamarius Burton or Isaiah Wong. And there are other guys with better stats. There are obviously a couple guys averaging double-doubles. There's, Tyree Appleby from Wake Forest is averaging more points and more assists than Burton or Wong. But I look at Burton and Wong, and I see the two best players on the two best teams. You know what I mean? The guys who are really the leaders. And no disrespect to Blake Hinson. I've called him the X Factor. I think that's what he is for this Pitt team. But Burton is really the guy. And I think he's respected as such around the ACC. And likewise, I think Isaiah Wong is respected as such around the conference as well. And to me, if I was an ACC Player of the Year voter, and I'm not, but if I was, I would be watching tomorrow night's game with Pitt and Miami, and I would say, all right, one of you is going to earn my vote. Who outplays the other guy? Yeah, and that'll be based on stats, who puts up the bigger numbers in this game tomorrow night, and it'll be based on just head-to-head. Because, we saw the head-to-head competition last time Pitt played Miami when it came down to Miami's final possession, and Burton was guarding Wong, and Burton made the play. Burton took the ball away from Isaiah Wong. He made a bunch of plays in the final stretch there, and Wong made a couple mistakes in the final stretch. If it goes down like that again, or flips, and Wong makes the plays in the final stretch, and Burton makes a couple mistakes, that's who's going to get my vote. It's the guy who wins the game for his team tomorrow. These are the two best teams in the ACC, and these are the best players on each team. Those are the guys that should be in contention for the ACC Player of the Year, and the winner should come out of this game. I really believe that. And I'm going to write it on Panther-Lair.com in the 321 column today. You can read more thoughts on that. Look, Burton is the only guy in the conference right now averaging 15, 5, and 4. Nobody else is averaging 15, 5, and 4. He is I think you can make a pretty good case that he's been the best all-around player in the ACC this season. Nobody else has his kind of production in all three areas, plus what he does defensively, plus his role as the leader of the top team in the ACC, which is what they are right now. Until this game tips off tomorrow night, Pitt is the number one team in the ACC. If the season ended right now, and it doesn't, but if it ended after 19 games and they went into the conference tournament, Pitt would be the number one seed. Burton is the guy who has led them to that point. So to me, he's got a pretty good case to make for ACC Player of the Year. I think he can do it in the head-to-head tomorrow night against another guy who's got a pretty good case to make for it, Miami guard Isaiah Wong. So just another storyline to put on this game. I don't know if the voters are going to look that way or not, if they're going to go with it, but I would. And I'm going to talk about it like that. I'm going to keep trying to push that narrative and that theory. We'll see if anybody else buys into it, but that's my little pet project or pet idea I've been sort of working on over the last few days. But we'll see what happens. I think, I understand if you feel a little nervous about this game. I understand if you're still a little shell-shocked from the Notre Dame game, but let me remind you that this is what it's like when you are an accomplished basketball team. This is what it's like when you have success. You play in games that matter. And they're playing in the biggest game of the season tomorrow. I mean, Duke and Carolina is going on the same night. This is the game, though. Pitt-Miami is the one that matters the most. Pitt-Miami is the game for the ACC championship, not Duke-Carolina. So while everybody else is focused on Duke-Carolina, the real game in the ACC is going to be happening in Coral Gables. I'm excited to watch it. I hope you are too, and we'll definitely, like I said, we'll be live after the game right here at youtube.com/Panther-Lair.com. So make sure you like this video and subscribe to our YouTube channel so you don't miss any of our live streams or our morning pits or anything like that. And then, of course, head over to Panther-Lair.com, Pittsburgh.rivals.com, the most comprehensive source of Pitt sports news on the internet, football, basketball, and recruiting, all there at Panther-Lair.com, Pittsburgh.rivals.com. Thanks so much for tuning in today. Thanks for tuning in all week. Appreciate everybody who came out to the live stream on Wednesday night. Look forward to seeing everybody in the live post-game show on Saturday night. That should be a lot of fun. Win or lose, at least we'll be there to talk about it. I hope you had a good week. Like I say, I appreciate you watching the video today and throughout the week. I hope you have a good Friday and a good Saturday, and we will talk to you tomorrow night after Pitt-Miami, the regular season finale, for the post-game show right here on youtube.com/Panther-Lair.com.